It's a fantastic pleasure for me to take part in this meeting to celebrate the launch of the Manifesto and to be here together with Vandana after so many years that we have known one another. I had the pleasure of knowing her when she was a graduate student and she was an assistant to my Indian collaborator and friend Rajni Kothari, who was one of the great social scientists of India. And ever since then, it was over 40 years ago, I think, ever since then, I've followed, loved, and learned from Vandana and her remarkable career as somebody that has struggled to awaken the world to the most fundamental challenges to our conventional wisdom, that all we have to do is be part of a society that lets us vote from time to time. That's enough. And while she was talking, I was reminded of this saying that the poet T.S. Eliot once articulated: "With such knowledge, there is no forgiveness." We really are challenged in the most fundamental ways, and part of the knowledge is that we can't count on governments to address this issue, and we can't count on international institutions. They can be more or less harmful and occasionally helpful, but the most they can do is make changes at the margins. And what the message that Vandana is delivering to us is that it has to be a transformational change. We have to change the fundamental way we think of our relationships to power, to the earth, to everything that really affects the way in which we live in society. And the most immediate kind of challenge that I think confronts us here in America is the challenge of what engaged citizenship in the 21st century means. And it means more than our relationship to the state. It means rediscovering and restoring our relationship to nature. In other words, we need to become ecological citizens as well as political participants. And that means we have to understand that we cannot wait for the government or the private sector to address these challenges. We have both the responsibility and the opportunity to act, and the only way that fundamental change occurs is through the actions of people. Governments can do incremental things under normal conditions, but they only can act within the domain of the feasible. And the feasible means you have to follow the money. And if you follow the money, we've been told where that leads. And so how do you follow the truth rather than following the money? That's the challenge of restoring democracy. Restoring democracy means following these truths that have been so clearly articulated by Vandana and Hilal in their presentations. And it seems to me that one of the ways to think about this is we have to begin holding our leaders accountable for ecological criminality. See, there's more to governing now than treating people decently. That's crucial, of course, and a precondition. But we have to also understand that human well-being and human survival depends upon treating nature decently and translating that into policies. But what we're now doing is a collaboration between governments, including the most democratic governments, and the private sector, corporations and banks, in engaging in systematic ecocide around the world. And how do we make that rhetoric become a political project? See, it's easy to say these kind of things that I'm saying, but how do we make them relevant to the way in which our political future unfolds? And that requires, just as something as, in certain ways, simple as the civil rights movement would never have happened without the mobilization of people. And I guess the basic thing that I would convey is that if we are to meet these challenges, it will come not through knowledge alone, but through knowledge fused with human action. And human action requires the mobilization of society nationally, regionally, transnationally, in all these domains. And that's something that we can begin to understand by the kind of knowledge that is becoming available in this biodiversity report. We've had many canaries die, and yet we haven't heeded the warning. See, and it raises the question, does this species want to survive? We're confronted by the first bio-ethical crisis in human experience. And it's really a bio-ethical-ecological crisis. And agriculture and food is at the core of that crisis. And so it seems to me that what is really at stake here is if we can act as responsible democratic citizens. Can we have this way of knowing, feeling, and acting translated into some form of political movement that is effective enough to change the agenda of our leaders? That's the challenge that I hope we will all take seriously. Thank you very much.